drug war and extrajudicial killings now, convict Rodrigo Duterte of crimes against humanity, impeach Sara Duterte, jail all Tokhang generals, re-engage with the ICC, end impunity. So that is the unity statement of the Duterte Panagutin Campaign Network. And just so you know, at the time that the network is launched, there had really already been demonstration, since the arrest of Duterte in March, there had been a series of demonstrations and other events organized all throughout Europe, including the Netherlands, the UK, Italy, and here in Germany. Our organizations were able to stage a big mobilization. We were able to mobilize about 100 people outside of the Brandenburg Gate in order to call for justice and accountability for Duterte. So this Europe-wide campaign network, the Duterte Panagutin Campaign Network, is really, the purpose of it is really to consolidate all of these forces across Europe so that we can be as united, as organized, and as effective in our actions as possible as we continue to push for justice. And before handing it over, before we hear from some of our, from a solidarity video from Migrante in Italy, we just want to mention already that the next big mobilization that we are preparing for will be in The Hague, and it will be focused on the weekend of September 20 to 21. And then there will be some subsequent events leading up to Duterte's next court hearing at the ICC, which will happen on September 23. So I just want to flag already, maybe Kathy, if you can drop the link for the campaign registration form. I want to encourage everyone to click this link to fill in this registration form. This will let us know how you may want to get involved in the efforts within Germany to get involved in the campaign and to support the campaign, and also to see if you would be willing or interested to come with us to The Hague, because we think it's really crucial at this moment to make our voices as loud as possible. This really is a historic, the arrest of Duterte was really a historic event. He's the first head of state or former head of state from Asia to be facing trial in the International Criminal Court. So I think it's really important, especially that the Filipino community comes together and demands justice, because the whole world is watching us right now. So we're hoping to have a really big mobilization in The Hague in September. We hope you all will join us. So I'm going to play now a solidarity video from Migrante chapter in Italy. The Italian chapter of the Duterte Panagutin Campaign already launched a few weeks ago. The German chapter, of course, is launching today, and we expect that other chapters in other European countries will be launching in the next week. So this really is a Europe-wide effort, and so we're encouraging everyone who signed on right now, please join us, please join the campaign, please get involved. I'll just line up the video that we received. Sorry for the technical difficulties. Okay. This is a video from Migrante Europe and Migrante Bologna.
At Migrante Bologna, kami ay nakikiisa sa pagtatayo ng Duterte Panagutin Germany. Hindi dapat mabigyan ng interim release si Rodrigo Duterte dahil sa bigat ng kasalanan niya sa sambayanang Pilipino. Mahalaga na sama-sama tayong manindigan na siya ay malitis at mahatulan para makamit ang hustisyang inaasam ng mga biktima ng kanyang madugong war on drugs. Duterte Panagutin! Convict Sara Duterte now! Mula
Okay, so up next, I'm going to introduce our first featured speaker. We will be hearing from Kristina Conti. Kristina is a human rights lawyer and the Secretary General for the National Capital Region chapter of the National Union of People's Lawyers, or NUPL. And she has been working for many years on cases of extrajudicial killings since the very early stages of Duterte's drug war. And it was really at a time when very few other lawyers were willing to take these cases. In 2018, Chrissy was helping already to bring these cases forward to the ICC. And she is currently a registered assistant to counsel for the ICC trial proceedings against Duterte. And I think it would be very accurate to say that without the work that Chrissy has been doing, along with the NUPL, and of course, along with the brave relatives of victims that had come forward, without the work that they had all been doing, the ICC case against Duterte would not exist. So it's really a great privilege and honor to have Chrissy here with us, and she will be able to share a little bit more about the trial proceedings. Thank you, Chrissy. I will hand it to you.
All right, thank you, Enzo, and happy to be with all of you. Duterte Panagutin, Germany, is that right? And of course, the rest of Duterte Panagutin Europe, whom I joined at its launch. So thank you for coming together and making plans already for September, because we certainly need the help for then. I just want to run through a few things about the case, specifically the dates, and we're looking at something that will happen tomorrow and then by the end of the week. But I'd also want to take a step back and look at the overall perspective from the Philippines, where, as precisely we've mentioned, okay, it's asking me to confirm my speaking language as English, not German. Wait. Okay, so when you take a step back, Duterte Panagutin really is not just about the ICC case, but about all of the crimes and the sins of the Dutertes. In Filipino, kasalanan, and it kind of means the same. So in the case against Duterte, and just a little bit of clarification, we have no formal role yet. I particularly have no formal role yet in the proceedings. It's because right now victims are in the process of registration or application. And only after they have been formally recognized can they appoint counsel. And so I think it's been very clear that this process is very tedious, it's very specific, it's very particular. And even if on the part of the victims, particularly for the group Rise Up for Life and for Rights, and with the Duterte Panagutin Network, we at the NUPL represent the victims and stand for them. In general, as recognized even by the media. This is because although there are other lawyers who support the victims on the ground, it would appear they don't want to take on the heat. And that is one aspect of my work, which brings me here before you. As lawyers, we're not just simply legal advisors, legal counselors for the victims, but also advocates. And we echo their voices to other areas as well. And I am happy that we have some of them here, particularly Sheerah, who will speak after me, and perhaps she can talk about her specific situation or maybe case. But at this point, we're looking at what to do. And in the case of Rodrigo Duterte, he's been arrested. He's been in detention since March. There are a few things that we're looking at this week and next. Oh, if your work week starts on Sunday. So tomorrow is the deadline of the disclosure period between the prosecutor and the defense. This disclosure requirement is in preparation for the confirmation of charges hearing in September. The disclosure is supposed to prepare Duterte for his answer or for his response to the charges to be presented in September. So technically, he will be able to see the charges or to read through the document containing the charges months ahead. The DCC, the document containing the charges, is due to be released a little bit later this week, July 4th. So July 1st, deadline of disclosure, general deadline, July 4th, release of the document containing the charges. I would imagine the staff and the lawyers from the Office of the Prosecutor now scrambling to put together everything that they need to submit to the other party. So far, they've had 7 tranches, 7 sets of evidence submitted to the other party. Most of this information is incriminatory, not exculpatory. And it's interesting to note because in the ICC, there's a little bit, well, in international courts, there's a little bit of emphasis on fairness, well, as should be, and even exculpatory evidence, meaning evidence that would tend to say that Duterte is not guilty. They have to submit to the other party. And in that sense, the prosecutor at any point should be gathering all the evidence in an inquisitorial manner rather than in an adversarial manner, not simply looking for evidence that will convict him. But at this point, as it seems, there's no exculpatory evidence yet to be found. So after this submission of evidence, the prosecutor then has to prepare for trial, or rather for the preliminary hearing that will lead us to trial. Technically, the confirmation of charges hearing is part of pre-trial still, not off trial. It is a preparation before trial can happen. But at the confirmation of charges hearing, the judges are given the choice actually to confirm or not to confirm the charges against Duterte. At this point, the possible charges against Duterte are murder committed within the context of crimes against humanity, committed in the Philippines and particularly in Davao between March 1st, 2011 November 1st, 2011 until March 16th, 2019. And if you look at that period, it's a very, very narrow period and covers a very narrow category of victims. For those who were in the Philippines at the time that Duterte was president or even mayor, I'm sure you have heard or maybe have had experiences with his kill, kill, kill and war on everything style of governance. He declared a war on drugs, which you must be familiar with, war on terror, war on dissent, war on the COVID virus. So he had a militarized approach to almost everything, to almost every problem, to the extent that he even weaponized the law against his critics, using it like a weapon in a war against, in a war that involved a whole of nation approach. And largely, we know of another aspect of his quote unquote wars, which would be war on dissent, waging it as part of, or rather within the framework of an anti-insurgency program. This is where he also red tagged people, which parallels the way he drug tagged drug addicts. So Duterte during his term vilified people, a certain group of people, saying that these people are drug addicts and therefore criminals. These people are communists and therefore terrorists. These people who are outside of their homes during the COVID pandemic are pasaway or, well, not following instructions. And therefore, all of them should be jailed. So in a sense, the ICC case only covers a very, very narrow category or population of all of Duterte's victims. In the universe of Duterte's crimes and sins, this case is but one part of the call or campaign for justice. On September 23rd, victims are not required to be present in court. As participating victims who have until August 3rd to apply or to register their participation or intention to participate in the proceedings, participating victims are not required, but they are encouraged. And on our part, we would very much welcome if the victims would be present in court when the charges against Duterte are read. This also would pave the way for other victims to get the courage to come forward. We do understand that until today, we cannot say that the Dutertes have left power or are powerless. Duterte, in fact, of the Dutertes, one is vice president, one is mayor of Davao, and one is congressman. So it's very clear that the Dutertes wield significant political power in the Philippines. For others as well, it is clear that Sara Duterte, the vice president, is a president in waiting for 2028. The participation of victims will stretch on for the rest of the trial, but we would want most of the victims to come forward at this stage already because this shows solidarity and conviction, in the sense that conviction for justice, not conviction for Duterte, of course, which we want at the end of these proceedings. Victims are allowed to participate to air their views and concerns. It is a little bit less, in a sense, than the participation of the prosecutor, which has or who has to prove the case. But for victims, their views and concerns should be taken at every step of the process so that it will reflect the decisions of the court, will reflect the greater interests of justice. There are many other decisions that have to be made until the final question of, is Duterte guilty or not of crimes against humanity? At present, even before the question of whether he should be indicted, at present there are two preliminary issues. First, he is challenging the jurisdiction of the court, saying that the ICC should not have seen to this case, opened this case entirely, because it had missed the quote-unquote deadline, as they claim, to open an investigation. Second, he's asking for interim release. In essence, these two motions or requests ask for his release. One, clearly for interim or temporary release, but the question of jurisdiction also asks for his permanent release. Because if the court has no jurisdiction, then why should he be held? Why be he be held in the court's detention facility? And for us, his release in any way, shape, or form will be a step back when we have already made that step forward for justice. His arrest in March already signaled for many of his victims, whether qualified within the parameters of this ICC case or not. It has already signaled that, well, change has come and change will be coming. And so a step back adds salt to the injury. Already now being what do you call this? In Filipino, parang kinukut-kut pa. Ano ba to? An injury or a wound that's still being chipped at, especially at this time that his supporters are renewing their bullying of victims. After Duterte's arrest, we have noticed proliferation of trolls and actually real persons showing up in support of the Dutertes, disregarding logic and compassion altogether. They have bullied victims for simply existing, for putting forward their claims, and have generally attacked on three fronts. First, that the victims are forwarding false information and may not even be victims. So the first narrative of panim biktima. Second, they're bullying the victims, saying that they should have been killed in the first place. I mean, the victims as the deceased, arguing that the war on drugs was necessary to rid the Philippines of evil. And then third, bullying the victims or their lawyers for on various other reasons. For example, looks. For example, what's this? Very shallow reasons, and it takes a toll. And it is important that in these times when there are victims at risk, we all stand together with them, beside them, if not behind them. So thank you very much. And hopefully we can take in your questions for later, especially if we want to make specific plans already for September 23rd and that weekend.
Thank you so much, Chrissy. I think now I will just introduce, thank you for that. That was so informative and clarifying. And I think, you're emphasizing really the need to stand behind victims, I think is really a great segue into our next speaker today, who we will hear from first before we open the floor for questioning. But first I'll introduce Sheerah Escudero. Sheerah Escudero lost her younger brother, 18-year-old Efraim Escudero, to Duterte's brutal drug war on September 21, 2017. Since this terrible and traumatic incident, Sheerah has been a brave and defiant voice speaking out against the drug war. Because of her courageous activism, and this Chrissy also referred to in her input, Sheerah has been constantly harassed by online trolls, subjected to a barrage of hateful, misogynistic, and threatening comments, as well as blatantly false accusations. Yet despite all of this, Sheerah continues to speak out and continues to demand justice for her brother and for the tens of thousands of other victims of Duterte's drug war. So we're really very, very honored to have you here with us, Sheerah. Thank you for your bravery and really for continuing to speak out despite everything. I think it's such an inspiring example. And I hope that we can do our part also to stand with you and to stand behind you, as Chrissy said. So I will pass the floor now over to Sheerah.
Hi everyone. This is Sheerah Escudero from Philippines. So I am sister of Efraim Escudero. We lost my brother almost 9 years ago, and it's still clear in my head what happened during that year. So he left our house September 19, 2017. He said he will just go to our cell phone repair shop. We have this small family business, but he never came back. So our family believed that he's a collateral damage on this of this Duterte's drug war. So he picked up a hitchhiker based on our investigation, since the police officers never helped us. So we're the ones who went through CCTV footages and asked the people around our community. So he picked up a hitchhiker And we found out that the hitchhiker was the target. He just came from prison. He also have some cases. Uh, so we went. That's the last time people saw Ephraim alive. So this hitchhiker was actually found dead in Pampanga. Ephraim. So we went looking until a neighbor saw a news on a tabloid. So it's just a short news saying dalawang magkaibang bangkay, something like that. Dalawang bangkay natagpo ang patay sa magkaibang lugar sa Pampanga. So there were two men found dead in different city in Pampanga. Ephraim was found in Angeles, Pampanga. He was unidentified person that time. But my family went there to like determine if it's really him. So we found out that it's him. My parents went there first. And then we confirmed that it was Ephraim. So the investigator also showed us the photos. So what happened to him is beyond unimaginable. He was found wrapped with packaging tape around his head. He was tied, his hands were tied behind his back. His legs were also tied with packaging tape. And based on the investigation, he suffered from 3 gunshot wounds. So it looks like he was already dead before they dumped him on that dark place in Angeles, Pampanga. So Ephraim left us 2 sons. They were babies that time. They're now 10, the oldest, and the youngest is now turning 9. After what happened, we found Rise Up. So we went looking for different organizations. Then we found Rise Up and NUPL. It was October, so just less than a month after Ephraim died. Really, really tried looking for someone who can help us, and we're glad that we're here with Rise Up. So our family is still having a hard time until now. The amount of trauma has been difficult. Our family have our own struggles. My parents struggle with the livelihood. My siblings, they struggled with academics and their school. And I also had a hard time finding an employment because it's really hard to like live a normal life after that. So it took me years and years of processing things, and until now we're still processing it. So it's been almost a decade, but we can still feel it, the pain and the trauma. So getting justice is really going to help us move forward and heal. And we are committed for getting justice, not just for Ephraim and the other victims, the thousands of victims, but we also need justice for my nephews. They're already asking us, since they were toddler, what happened to Daddy? Why does he have some bullets in his head? So how do you answer a toddler about that? I think they heard adults. So while we search for justice, we go to Congress, we like do different interviews, both local and international. So we're really exposed out there. Not until Duterte was arrested, the bullying became intensified. I was bullied online. There were fake news. They harassed me to the point that they'll look me up in Facebook. They'll go to my profile, spam me with haha or angry react or comment on my post. Or the worst part is like they send me direct messages, sending threats, intimidations, harassments, all the bad words that they could imagine. They send me that. It's already horrible that my brother was extrajudicially killed, how we found him, how we went searching for him for 5 days, but police officers never help us. My brother is still not getting justice. It's been almost 9 years, even almost a decade, and he's still not getting justice. So we're here, um, like we're here speaking. We spoke in the Congress with the Quadcom. We like try to work with different government officials, and also we went to the ICC. So we try to exhaust all the possible platforms for us to get justice. So Duterte being released, or if he will be released, just even if it's just an interim release, it will like really make us feel vulnerable again. He's already in jail, but his supporters, they never stop sending us harassments, intimidations, and even Duterte. Uh, Duterte is the reason why we lost our loved ones, why thousands and thousands of Filipinos lost their lives, and if they will release Duterte again, it's like uh, it's like losing this grip. Like you thought you already have this justice. You're almost there, attaining justice, but it's like there's a chance that you lose him. You'll lose Duterte, and justice will be left vulnerable again. And knowing, also knowing that Duterte is still behind the bars, somehow eases this heaviness in my chest. I was able to like work, like somehow work again, and try to live a normal life, knowing that he's not here in the Philippines anymore. Although it's still a struggle, so we don't want any injustice, and releasing him is also a form of injustice, also to those countries who will like accept him, receive him, even if it's just for temporary. It's like uh, they help they help a murderer. For me, I can call him a murderer already, because our loved ones are the proof that he killed people. So it's like they're also part of the injustice, the possible another injustice that will happen. So I hope those countries will give it really a thorough thought about accepting Duterte if ever he'll have this interim release, and we don't want that to happen. And also, Marcos, it's clear that he's not cooperating very well with the ICC. So he really need to also remove the drug war, because until now, people are still dying because of the drug war. Uh, and if he truly care about the Filipino people, he'll abolish it, he'll scrap it, or he'll stop it and not fund it anymore. So we will keep on moving forward, even if it's hard, even if it's really painful to keep on telling our stories. We're grateful that Filipinos here in Europe are still there to help us to do campaigns to tell people about what's really happening here in the Philippines. We're grateful that even if you're far, you still make these efforts. And we also hope that our fellow Filipino people in the Europe will also reach out to their families and friends, and help them understand, those who still support Duterte, help them understand what's really happening here in the Philippines. So even if you're far away, we're hopeful that you will help us spread the news and combat fake news, because I think the fake news really spread globally. So please help us expose fake news and tell the truth. And we understand that people are far away, and based on my observations, even some of our fellow Filipino people who are working in Europe, the OFWs or migrant workers, they're one of the sectors who like believe in the lies of Duterte. So let us speak to them and tell them what's really happening here in the Philippines. So we're really grateful for the opportunity that uh, Duterte Panagutin gave us. Like being able to speak here is already a huge opportunity for us, and I will not get tired of retelling our story, even if the families are afraid, even if sometimes it's really painful to retell our story all over again. I'll never stop because if fear is contagious, and so is courage. And we're really grateful that you stand with us and you also speak our story. So thank you so much, Europe and Duterte Panagutin. I know you are with us in this fight, and we will never stop speaking, not until we attain justice. And even if Duterte is already convicted and will be behind bars eternally in the ICC, I will still not stop speaking about my brother and about the thousands of victims of the drug war, because I will never forget my brother. I will never forget what Duterte did to our family. Thank you so much, Europe, and thank you so much, Duterte Panagutin Europe. And we hope that we will still be together, not until we attain justice.
Thank you so much, Sheerah. Yeah, thank you so much for sharing your story with us. I think, it's a really important reminder of what this campaign is really about, really why it's so important, to demand justice for Ephraim and for really the tens of that, by some estimate, 30,000 Filipinos who were slaughtered under this brutal, bloody drug war. And so I think, I hope as well that your courage is contagious. I hope we can take it with us. And I hope that hearing your story will really motivate us to get that, to see you being as brave as you're being will also give us courage to be able to stand with you through this fight for justice. So thank you so much for sharing. At this point, I would just like to remind everyone that we have a link in the chat that Kathy shared. This is a registration link for the Duterte Panagutin Germany campaign effort. So I'd like to encourage all of you to please click on that link either now or after the event today. Please fill in a registration form, because this is how we're really going to be able to consolidate everyone in Germany who is concerned about this, who is outraged by the drug war, who is also, who wants to stand with the victims in seeking justice. So please do fill in that form. We are hoping to be able to develop activities all throughout Germany, not just in Berlin where we're based, but we would love to encourage people in other places as well to organize events where they are. So please click on the link. At this point, I think we're a little slightly behind time, but I think if there are any burning questions that anyone in the audience has, I think we can maybe just take one or two questions for either Chrissy or Sheerah. Feel free to write any of your questions into the chat. Okay. If there are no questions, I might just have one question for you, Chrissy, if you're listening in. I was just wondering if you could tell us from the perspective of the case, how you think the kind of public support, outside of the courtroom, let's say, But in terms of trying to build this public support and public conversation, how you see it interacting with the trial proceedings?
Well, in the same way that there is no impact of the support for that there will be no impact on the proceedings. I mean, how Duterte supporters show up outside of the courtroom will have no impact. Likewise, even if we gather same number or thousands of people outside of the court or even elsewhere, there will be no significant, in a way, influence on the judges because they will be deciding on the merits of the case. But, and this is important because I want to point out that the victims can be influenced or can be impacted by such public sentiments. So one, if you attack the victims who are potential witnesses, you may come under Article 70 of the Rome Statute, which talks about offenses against the administration of justice, which talks about obstruction of justice. And if you in any way um, influence or interfere with the proceedings, and particularly the witnesses, possibly a victim, um, the if well, of course, there's a lot of conditions. If the principal Duterte or any of the other possible co-perpetrators is could be traced as responsible for that, then there would be additional charges. But then on the other hand, how about supporting the victims? It would certainly embolden this group. I would like you to think of the victims not as a homogeneous group, but rather as a heterogeneous group. We may say that, yeah, the war on drugs was a massacre of the poor, and so we think of the victims as part of urban poor communities, but in the cities. But in the case of Sheerah didn't live in Metro Manila. She was on the suburbs of Manila. They had a good enough livelihood. And as Sheerah earlier mentioned, they are thinking, or there are possibilities that her brother might be considered as collateral damage. So the universe of victims is not homogeneous, and therefore they have different ways of coping. On the part of Rise Up, and I think, I guess Rubylin is here. I guess she could also validate this. We've only reached out to a maximum, or more or less, 200 victims out of a possible 30,000 victims. 7,640 of which were dead in police operations. And to note, in the ICC, when we say victims, there's two types, direct and indirect. And if we're talking of the crime as murder within the context of crimes against humanity, the direct victim is the deceased. And so that's the 7,640 dead in police operations, possibly up to 30,000 dead in other operations. All other surviving kin and all others who were harmed by the death could be considered as victims. And so showing support for them could embolden them to come forward and participate in the proceedings. And for those who are not qualified or would be part of the ICC proceedings, that kind of support could also help them pursue either individual cases or domestic cases as regards against Duterte or any other of the perpetrators. So hopefully we will complement the ICC case or an international trial with other charges, other cases, and hopefully investigations in the Philippines as well.
Thank you for that, Kristina. That was so clarifying. And again, it's, I think reiterating that this is really for the victims. No? Our purpose in this campaign is really to support them and for them to be able to speak their truth around this is the most important function of what we're doing. So I think with that,
Sorry, just another
yes,
point also. Of
Yes,
course, it
please.
doesn't help that there's some politics to it as well. If you've seen the Duterte the Bongbong Marcos administration, which is, well, so to speak, also a populist president. He's trying to pander to the audience. If we show that there is popular support or demand for accountability, then we will do so. Just recently, Friday, the Secretary of Justice said that the government will be providing, I don't know if this is true, but will be providing support and protection to some witnesses of the case. Actually, they've already given up on domestic charges, saying that as regards crimes against humanity, which we could have filed locally, they are ceding or letting the ICC proceed with this case. So if, as again I've reiterated, we're looking at a very narrow range of crimes that Duterte committed. And so we must not lose sight of the larger picture that they have to be taken to account for all of their crimes, or at least majority of it.
Thank you. Yeah. Are there any other questions from the audience? If there are no other questions, I would suggest maybe we're running slightly behind time, but also I want to be mindful of Chrissy and Sheerah because I know it's really in the middle of the night for both of you right now. So I don't want to keep you too long. So maybe we can move on to the rest of the program. But before that, yeah, again, our deepest thanks to Chrissy and also especially to Sheerah for sharing your story with us, for reminding us why this campaign is important. And you know, we are committed as much as we can here in Germany to keep reaching out to our community, to kind of broaden the people who are involved in this campaign, and to keep pushing for justice. I think it's the least really that we owe to the thousands of victims that were lost, and to people like you, Sheerah, and your family who have survived. So thank you again for joining us. Feel free, of course, to stay until the end of the event, but also you're welcome to sign off if you want to get some rest. Thank you again.
Thank you, but I think I'll stay on as long as I can.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sheerah. Okay, so for the next part of our program, we had another featured speaker, Rubylin Litao. I believe that Rubylin was hoping to be able to join us live from Italy, where she currently is, but we heard news that there is actually a big mobilization happening in Italy, so then she was not sure she was going to be able to join us to give her input live. But we do have a video that she sent before the start of this chat, just in the case that she wouldn't be able to join in person. But I'll just read a short introduction to Rubylin and the incredible work that she's been doing. Rubylin Litao is a United Methodist deaconess and is a coordinator for Rise Up for Life and for Rights, which is the organization that Sheerah had mentioned that her family was able to find for support. Rise Up is a network of church people, human rights advocates, and the victims and families of the affected communities in the Philippines, working in defense of life and protection of human rights, particularly against drug-related killings under Rodrigo Duterte. Since the very early stages of Duterte's drug war, Rise Up has been one of the most active and most important organizations working with families of victims, documenting hundreds of cases, and continuing to advocate for justice. So unfortunately, Rubylin, unless she may have just signed on. Rubylin, are you with us? No, okay, must have been someone else. So with that, I'll play the video that Rubylin sent to us, just so we'll be able to hear from her. Sorry, just 1 second while I organize. Okay.
Thank you for inviting Rise Up for Life and for Rights for the launching of the Duterte Panagutin Campaign Network Germany chapter. This launching is a timely effort as we look forward to the confirmation of charges hearing against former President Duterte on September 23. The camp of Duterte appealed for an interim release from the ICC detention facility this June, and this was opposed by the Office of the Prosecutor. Rise Up advocates and victims' families welcome this stance of the Office of the Prosecutor. For years, the family members of victims have waited with deep patience while justice remains elusive. Duterte must remain in detention as this ensures the long overdue trial to proceed. Anything less would dishonor the suffering of the thousands killed and the grief of those left behind. Former President Duterte waged war on drugs called Project Double Barrel or Plan Tokhang, and this has caused one of the worst human rights crises in our country, killing thousands of the poor, majority of whom were breadwinners, leaving thousands of grieving mothers, widows, and orphan children. Duterte's so-called war on drugs was in reality a war against the poor. They were killed in broad daylight or deep in the night in police operations or vigilantes in civilian clothes, riding on motorcycles, or we call that riding in tandem style. This state policy left a trail of dead bodies for the period 2016 to 2022, estimated as 20,000 to 30,000 by human rights groups, or 6,252 according to official government data. Whatever the data, one killing is one too many. Since 2016, Rise Up has worked closely with the victims' families in their long quest for justice. Over the past 9 years, Rise Up stood in solidarity with the grieving families who lost their loved ones. The brutal killings left deep scars on the families with pain and trauma that will remain for generations. The domestic legal remedy is pathetic if not proven to be unhelpful for the poor ones who seek justice for the violations and killings done on their loved ones. According to Justice Secretary Crispin Ramulla, he said, it's difficult to prove the case here in the Philippines and build up the case because those who need to speak are involved in the crime. This is according to the news in last June 26. Yet, the shared grief of the victims strengthened their collective call for justice and accountability, bringing them together in solidarity. Rise Up initiated actions to seek justice for the victims, both domestically and internationally. The tireless efforts, especially of the mothers, the widows and sisters, and other family members, provide deep inspiration to all of them and all those who accompany them in their quest. Since 2017, Rise Up has actively participated in lobbying efforts to embassies, parliaments, people's organizations in partnership with the International Coalition for Human Rights in the Philippines, or ICHRP, Migrante, and other international organizations. In August 2018, Rise Up submitted a communication complaint to the International Criminal Court with the assistance of the National Union of People's Lawyers and provided information to the court's Victims Participation and Reparation section in 2021 and 2023. It was also in this year, 2018, when Rise Up joined the International People's Tribunal held in Brussels. In September to October 2019, Rise Up in partnership with iChirp launched the project Tao Po, Rising Up for Justice and Humanity. This is a series of dramatic presentations of the victims' plight in 6 European countries: Geneva, Switzerland, Amsterdam, Netherlands, Vienna, Austria, London, United Kingdom, Berlin, Germany, and Rome, Italy. This partnership was based on a shared desire to seek justice for thousands who have been unjustly killed and orphaned by Duterte's war on drugs. The following years, in 2020, 2022, 2023, Rise Up Mothers joined the delegation that lobbied at the United Nations Human Rights Council meetings or session. And this June, I am one of the members of the delegation of Philippine UPR Watch, a network of faith-based and human rights organizations participating in the 59th session of the United Nations Human Rights Council in Geneva, Switzerland, where Irene Khan, the United Nations Special Rapporteur on Freedom of Expression, delivered her report. We support her recommendation and opinion for the Philippines to return to the International Criminal Court. We are deeply grateful to the international community for accompanying Rise Up, especially the mothers in the above-mentioned international engagements. In the home front, last year, from June to November 2024, during the hearings held by the Philippine Congress, Rise Up families and advocates seized the opportunity to present their testimonies and experiences with the Philippine justice system. Looking back, the families felt a glimmer of hope when former President Duterte was arrested on March 11 and flown to The Hague on March 12, followed by his first appearance before the ICC on March 14. While the victims' families, together with the advocates, are awaiting the upcoming September confirmation of charges, there are issues and situations confronting the families. Online bullying or social media bashing were immediately experienced by the mothers and sisters of victims who publicly expressed their support to the arrest and detention of Duterte. We have requested the National Bureau of Investigation to look into this. Our continuing call for solidarity. This week, Australia and Belgium governments already rejected the request to host Duterte should the interim release be granted. We thank Australia and Belgium governments for this initiative. We call on and urge the international community to lobby to the respective governments not to accept former President Duterte. Justice must be prioritized. We call on the international community to continue its global action for justice and accountability, especially this coming September. Let us stand with the victims of extrajudicial killings. For the victims' families of Rise Up for Life and for Rights, to stay silent is not an option. They chose to fight back. They kept on saying that the brazen killings happened in the war on drugs must be remembered for future generations, not only to know this is a state-sponsored bloodbath, but more importantly, to resolve that it must never happen again. The fight for justice has become their strength. The pursuit for justice is not only for their loved ones killed, but for also the families left behind. Muli, maraming salamat at mabuhay ang Duterte Panagutin Germany Chapter. Magandang araw po sa ating lahat.
So that was the message from Rubylin Litao from the network Rise Up for Life and for Rights. And again, another important reminder of why we are trying to build this campaign here in Germany. She spoke again, like Sheerah and Chrissy before her, about the way that Duterte supporters and the trolls that they are paying for have really been so loud and aggressive. And so I think it's, we in this network believe this is really why it's important for us to sort of connect, get together, and to also make our voices as loud, if not louder, than theirs. Also as a way to kind of protect the victims, the families of the victims as well. So with that, we'll move on with the program. Up next, we have a short solidarity video from Ikay, who is from the organization Pinay sa Holland, Gabriela. And we wanted to share this video again to show that this is not just a German-wide campaign. We will be organizing events, initiatives, mobilizations together here in Germany, but this is really part of a Europe-wide effort. So we wanted to share a few words also from folks in the Netherlands. I will go ahead and play that video now.
Magandang gabi, good evening sa inyong lahat. I am Ikay, and on behalf of Pinay sa Holland, Gabriela, I am sending this message of solidarity to the Duterte Panagutin Germany chapter. The creation and presence of this group intensifies our efforts in Europe to hold Duterte accountable before the ICC, amplify the voices of victims' families, and mobilize communities across Europe in pursuit of justice for the Filipino people. Pinay sa Holland, Gabriela continues to fight for and alongside all mothers, sisters, grandmothers who lost their families because of Duterte's fake war on drugs. We strongly condemn all the senseless killings of Filipinos, especially the children who were mostly in impoverished areas in the country. Children continue to struggle psychologically, emotionally, from the culture of impunity, and even economically due to the loss of their loved ones who have also become victims of the Duterte regime. This war on the poor has devastated us as a nation. Ang kabataan ang pag-asa ng bayan at ninakaw ni Duterte ang ating kinabukasan. Every day that Duterte is in the ICC prison, we very slowly inch closer to justice. However, his supporters continue to spread fake news and harass victims' families, lawyers, human rights defenders, and even the press. This should be a reminder that our work is hardly done. Duterte has divided us as a people, and it is equally our task to heal our community. We are here to stand arm in arm with all of you in Germany and hope that this alliance grows in every corner of the world. We invite all allies, non-Filipinos, and all those who believe in justice and human rights to stand and fight with us. I would like to take the opportunity to invite everyone to also follow the Duterte Panagutin Europe Facebook page, where we will update everyone regarding our next steps and activities in The Hague. We know that the first hearing will be somewhere between September 23 to 25, so we would like to ask you to join us starting the weekend before and save the date as we announce our plans and actions. Again, please block off the 20th Saturday to possibly the 25th when you can. Duterte Panagutin, justice delayed is justice denied. Maraming salamat po.
So nakita ko ang
Okay. It's great that Ikay mentioned again the mobilization in The Hague. If you fill in the registration form, the link again is in the chat. It will ask you how you would like to join us in The Hague if you're able to. But we in Germany are hoping that we can have build up enough interest and enough commitment to attend the mobilizations in The Hague that, as Ikay said, would be September 20, potentially until September 25, but with the main events happening the weekend of September 20 to 21. We're hoping that we can, over these next months, build up enough excitement about this campaign that enough people will commit to want to go to The Hague, that it would be worth it to rent a bus and travel together, to caravan together, united from Germany to The Hague. So we hope you can join us for that. As Ika gave the dates to block off, it would be September 20, potentially to 25, but even if you're just available for the weekend of 20 to 21, that would also be amazing. We will most likely plan the group travel to travel from Germany on the 19th. But also if there are other people who want to attend from other parts of Germany, we're very happy to coordinate the travel plan so that you'll be able to travel with us. So please fill in the registration form. Again, the link is in the chat. And lastly, we wanted to offer the floor to a representative from Bayan Europe. We have Professor Phoebe Sanchez with us. Bayan Europe is the Europe-wide alliance that our organizations are a part of, and that is also really leading the Europe-wide campaign effort, or one of the main organizations that are really trying to push this campaign effort throughout Europe. So Professor Phoebe, I will hand the floor over to you.
Einen schönen militanten Abend für alle. Isang mainit at militanteng gabi sa ating lahat. For Bayan Europe, the ICC custody of Rodrigo Roa Duterte beginning March 11, 2025 was a landmark victory. It may sustain a prolonged legal battle to follow thereafter, but one thing is sure, Duterte will face the trial for the mass murders that he designed. And this is what we were fighting for. In criminal justice, victory is to make the criminal suffer the suffering of victims, be it in isolation or in partial death. The basic palpable gain for Duterte's arrest is enabling the victim's family to confront the criminal Rodrigo Duterte. For Bayan Europe, the ICC custody of Mr. Rodrigo Duterte is testimony to the effectivity of a resistance movement in the country. 7 decades after the end of the Second World War, we may say that the world had significantly advanced in scientific knowledge, in technology, and the institutionalization of human rights, but the Philippines is stuck to the enormous levels of inequality, poverty, the barbarism of post-World War II, aka Third Republic comprador political leadership. While we are far from home, we cannot turn a blind eye and not mind how piece by piece the ruling class had dismantled whatever iota of institutional gains were there achieved in the last century. The top 400 families sustain looting of resources, while 18 million families are in the quagmire of poverty. And then Duterte significantly introduced a system repudiating judicial independence and the criminal justice, alongside the proliferation of poison narratives in faked media. At first, we welcomed that at least somebody from southern Philippines made it to executive office after so many years, after Carlos P. Garcia, the Bulanon, only to find out that he will engender hideous political hustling and opportunisms. With the Dutertes, hometown bossism, sultanism, patrimonialism, protectionism, and even syndicalism combined are very much alive today in the Philippines. The Dutertes surpassed the Marcos regime's record of 3,725 murders. The Duterte murders are 10 times more. Remember the defenseless, uncontrived citizens whose deaths were misreported as cardiac arrest, pneumonia, and other natural causes, but only to be proven with evidence of tortures, bullet holes in the head, and other fatal parts of the body. Democratic transition is in cul-de-sac. Today, the Duterte crimes represent the peak of the ignominy of Filipino ruling class, which only necessitates the intervention of international law in order for us to sustain the rule of law. In fact, we witnessed the Philippine Senate's disgraceful and unforgivable betrayal of the Constitution, impunity, and erosion of due process. The obnoxious vice president, aided by the arrogant 18 senators, had boldly dismissed her impeachment trial as a constitutional process. These senators deliberately distort the notion of due process via self-serving manipulation of their mandate, choosing not to serve the people but to sell and make filthy their office to VP Sara Duterte. This only proves that intervention via international jurisprudence is even more crucial at this moment if we want justice to be served to the victims of the Duterte mass murders since the 1980s. We have currently 18 senators who shamelessly pissed and prostituted their positions in political servitude to the odious schemes of the Duterte family. These senators are traitors and must be treated squarely as such, and their names written as part of the dirty or dark history of the country. After all, they served as part and parcel of the machinery for crimes against humanity as they transformed themselves into spin doctors and mouthpieces for the cover-up of the crimes of Sara Duterte and her father, her banditry, and her commission of high crimes. We cannot allow the continued whitewashing, cover-ups, and poison narratives against the victims and the mass movement. We must continue to be vigilant and sustain our campaigns and calls. Duterte Panagutin, mabuhay ang bayan Europe, isulong ang pambansang demokrasya.
Thank you so much for that impassioned speech, Prof. Phoebe, and thank you also for reminding us of the, really the economic base of this human rights emergency. That of course, it's really the fact that drug usage is a socio-economic problem. It's a public health problem, and the situation under Duterte was really trying to treat it. In the way that Chrissy was saying, through purely military means. And so these millions and millions of pesos that could have gone into public health, that could have gone into educational initiatives, that could have gone into providing jobs and raising wages for people, instead went into police, intelligence, military operations, and ended up slaughtering tens of thousands. So thank you for this reminder that this is a human rights issue, of course, but it's also, part of a broader economic framework and the ruling class holding on to their positions. So with that, I think we'll move on just to the last part of the program. And this is really, some of these bits of information have already been offered throughout the launch. But just to kind of consolidate what has already been said regarding the next steps of the campaign. So I would encourage everyone that really the first step to make is to fill in the registration form that we have shared in the link in the chat. This is really the first step to getting involved into this important and historic and urgent campaign. So please do fill in that form. As folks have mentioned already several times, the next sort of major milestone on the horizon is the mass mobilization in The Hague in September, leading up to Rodrigo Duterte's next court hearing at the ICC in The Hague. So as I mentioned as well, we will be mobilizing as many people as possible in Germany to go to The Hague for that mobilization. It will be concentrated on the weekend of September 20 to 21. But as has been mentioned in one of the messages, it may last until September 25. But we're really trying, especially on the weekend, of course, because most people won't be, that's when most people won't be working. So we're hoping to really, for that weekend, get as many people in The Hague as possible. And again, it's to show that that there are many, many, many overseas Filipinos, especially here in Europe, that want to see justice, that want to see Duterte held accountable. So we hope you will join us for that. As I mentioned, we will try, if there is enough interest coming from Germany, and we hope that there will be, we are going to try to arrange for coordinated group travel. So we're hoping to, depending on the amount of interest there is and from where people are coming from, to be able to rent one bus or several buses even to take people to The Hague together, to travel together to go there. So please fill in the registration form. Please let us know in that form if you're willing to go to The Hague with us. And then so between now and that mobilization in September, basically the call is for different country chapters to organize their own campaign plans and their own campaign activities leading up to the September mobilization. So when you fill in the form, the way that we have, we've decided to plan this out, we have already an existing WhatsApp group. So if you fill in that form, we will add you to this WhatsApp group. This WhatsApp group contains folks from all across Germany, a lot from Berlin, where our organization is based, but also from different parts of Germany. So we're hoping that this chat group can also be a way for people in different areas to connect with each other. So for example, if there are multiple people there from the Hamburg region or from the Munich region or from the Cologne region, Cologne-Düsseldorf region, we're hoping it can be a way for those people to connect and then to start to organize as well events in their own areas of residence to build up this campaign. And we, our organizations will be very happy to support any initiatives. We're planning to create info sheets that we can share if people want to produce their own visual material or educational material. We're hoping to be able to share a database of films that could possibly be screened, so be able to facilitate permissions for film screenings wherever you are. So please, again, fill in the registration form, join the WhatsApp group, and connect to people in your area, because we'd be very happy to support independent initiatives happening all over Germany. But I think it's really important that we, get as much information out there as possible and get as many people involved as possible. So I also wanted to say as a last note before, hopefully you'll stick around to take a joint picture together. We were hoping to just get a screenshot of the folks who are willing to be in a photo together in this chat, just so we have a record of this campaign launch. But before I say that, we also wanted to mention as a very concrete thing coming up, on July 12th, Alpas, Migrante, and Gabriela will be hosting our yearly Philippinex Festival. I think a lot of folks, it seems like, will be coming from all over Germany to join us for a full day of celebrating and honoring Filipino culture, Filipino resistance, and across generations. So we hope a lot of you will be able to join us for that. And we wanted also to offer that during that event, we're hoping that we can set aside a little corner to have an in-person meet and greet for folks who want to get involved in the campaign. So again, please do fill in the registration form. We'll put all this information in the WhatsApp group, but we're hoping that a group of us will be able to get together in person, also just to meet each other, hear each other's stories, how people are coming into this campaign, so we can really start building, a bigger movement here in Germany to hold Duterte accountable and to demand justice. And so with that, I think maybe if folks are willing to turn on their cameras for a group photo, it'd be wonderful just to be able to mark this moment in our campaign. So if you're willing, please turn on your camera now. I will put it into gallery mode. And maybe somebody who, sorry, after we take this photo, I forgot one last announcement, but maybe we take the photo first, and then I'll make an announcement about Harry Roque. This is an important development. I'm sorry that I forgot earlier, but I'll be sharing a little bit about potential steps that we can take. Anyway, I'll describe this after we do our photograph. But Kathy, you can take the photo. Are you able to take the photo, or is there somebody who would?
The gallery. You show the gallery.
The gallery. Okay.
Yes, sorry, but I really.
Are you on? Okay. Let me do
phone.
the.
I think
yes.
someone who's in the.
Yeah, I think I can take the screenshot. So if everyone would just look at the camera, raise a fist if you want to, and I will. We have 2 pages of visitors, which is great. So this will just take a little while longer than expected, but I will let you know when you can break the pose. And hold it a little bit longer. Okay, thank you, everyone. So again, before we sign off, I'll share a little bit about the situation regarding Harry Roque. I think as many of you probably know, Harry Roque was a former presidential spokesperson and absolutely an accomplice and complicit in the mass killings that happened under Duterte's regime. He tried to get asylum, to apply for political asylum in the Netherlands, which was recently, a few weeks ago, rejected, thankfully. I think him even thinking that he could apply for political asylum and trying to frame himself as a politically oppressed person is an absolute insult to the victims, the victims of Duterte's drug war, but also an absolute insult to actual political refugees and asylum seekers from the Philippines who have actually had to leave the Philippines because they have been politically persecuted, many of whom are in Europe. And so I just wanted to read a statement that I think is very important and that we will also try to circulate in other ways. But this is a statement from a relatively new organization called Filipino Refugees in Europe, or FREE, F-R-E-E. And the statement is dated 20th of June, 2025, so obviously very recent, just about a week ago. It is called Why Harry Roque Should Not Be Granted Political Asylum in Europe or Anywhere. I'm sorry, I forgot to mention also as context, he tried and failed to apply for asylum in the Netherlands, but now he is trying to apply for asylum in Germany. So this is especially a task and responsibility for us here in Germany to make sure that this bogus asylum application is thrown out. It's really an incredible insult. So I will go ahead and read the statement. Free Filipino Refugees in Europe condemns strongly Harry Roque's misrepresentation of legitimate asylum seekers from the Philippines. Roque is the exact opposite of those who sought international protection in Europe. He is part of the terrorist regime of Rodrigo Duterte. He should not be granted asylum in the Netherlands or anywhere. Harry Roque's petition for asylum in the Netherlands is contemptible and ridiculous. He is lying through his teeth by claiming that he is a victim of human rights violations in the Philippines. The truth is, he is an apologist of the brutal tyrant, former Philippine President Rodrigo Duterte, akin to Goebbels' role in Adolf Hitler's Nazi Germany. Roque is a criminal fugitive from the Philippines. He is charged with qualified human trafficking and multiple counts of human trafficking, widely considered a heinous crime globally. These criminal acts were committed by him as an active collaborator in the shady activities of POGOs, or Philippines Overseas Gaming Operations, which proliferated under his boss, former President Rodrigo Duterte. Roque surreptitiously escaped from the Philippines and suddenly emerged in the Netherlands when Rodrigo Duterte was arrested and detained by the ICC in The Hague, obviously in his vain attempt at obfuscating his criminal liabilities and pose as a so-called victim of political persecution. The obvious reason why he chose to surface in the Netherlands is because he wants to hold on to the coattails of the Dutertes, especially the cult-like following of Rodrigo Duterte, to save himself from criminal prosecution, bastardizing the asylum process. Free Filipino refugees in Europe consists of Filipino political refugees who sought asylum in Europe due to imminent threats and political persecution by the Duterte government. Free calls on all EU governments not to grant Roque asylum. Free also urges the Marcos Jr. administration to exert all efforts to extradite Roque. Free calls on all freedom-loving Filipinos in Europe to reject Roque. So we just wanted to share this important statement from actual political refugees here in Europe to show again why this Roque application is an absolute insult. And we will be, again, if you fill in the registration form, join the WhatsApp group, we will be planning to start a petition to raising awareness about Roque and to plan certain campaigns to make sure that he does not get asylum in Germany and does not escape accountability for his role in these crimes. And so with that, we're a little bit 15 minutes over time, not too bad. But I think with that, we can close off this launch. Again, please fill in the registration form. Please get involved in this campaign in whatever way you are able. We really need the support. We really need to build a mass movement. We really need to make our voices heard for people like Sheerah, for people like her family, and the thousands and thousands of other families who are at this moment receiving the worst kinds of harassment and abuse and are being bullied into keeping their stories to themselves. We need to really, be there for them and to be able to, as Chrissy said, embolden them and protect them as they share their stories to the world, because these really are important stories. Every one of these 30,000 victims is an important story. So we need to try as much as possible to help and support the families of these victims to share their testimonies. And so with that, I see a raised hand. We could take a question if you have a question, Anna.
Yeah, hi. Sorry, it's a late breaking question. Magandang gabi po sa inyong lahat. Anna Santos po, journalist. I have a question. The past mobilization for Duterte's birthday last March was very strong from the followers. So, and now the vice president, his daughter, is on a media campaign, is on a campaign across different parts trying to get more support. Do we have an inkling of the support now that the Duterte camp has? Is it been stronger with the campaign of Sarah? I just want to get a sense of what's on the other side.
I'd like to say something.
Anybody?
Yeah.
Is there someone who would like to take that? Rafibi? Yeah.
I'd like to say something. As far as the campaign of Sara Duterte, she is actually sponsoring all AI generated information to cover up her lies, to cover up her crimes, and she doesn't want to, respond squarely to the accusation or the articles of impeachment. And in fact, the response to the impeachment is not a response. And she waived her right after the 10-day period that she is supposed to respond to that. If you're asking about how strong is her campaign, we don't find that strong among the OFWs in Berlin. We're having about 60,000 people in Berlin, but we don't see exactly 60,000 going for Sara Duterte not to be impeached. They're only producing and spinning lies. They're just spinning lies. But the actual survey, if we do our own survey, nobody would like to respond to that one. They don't have time even to go out because the German employers are very strict. You are not allowed to go and just make your Urlaub anytime, or just go around and say you want to go and there's a gathering of Filipinos. I'm afraid the junket of Duterte is from Davao, and they're bringing a lot of people from Davao to gather at The Hague. They are not really here. They're not from Europe.
Thank you. Thank you for that clarification. And I think, we hope that these discussions, I think, are very, very important. And I think these are the kinds of events that we would want to be planning and organizing together over these next months, discussions like this. How do we gauge the kind of support of Duterte? Another idea we had also was to actually have a discussion event about, for example, how to talk to Duterte supporters, because this is a question that often comes up with folks in our organization, and I'm sure folks that we know, right? What strategies and tools can we use to be able to, also reach out to Duterte supporters and try to convince them to come onto our side. So I think all of these kinds of questions, please hold on to them. I think all of these are really important to discuss. And if you have ideas, again, join our WhatsApp group, propose initiatives, discussion topics, and I think we'd be very, very happy to support organizing some of these events in the following next couple of months leading up to September.
Yeah, the church is having a lot of Filipinos, a mixed group. But if we ask them about their opinion on what's happening in the ground, in the home front, they avoid. They don't want to sit down and discuss about it. They even say they're confused.
Yeah, that's good insight. So with that, I think we can close out this, officially close out the Duterte Panagutin Germany campaign launch. Thank you all for being here. I know it was a very warm, I know a lot of people are out enjoying the warm weather here in Berlin. I don't know how weather is in other parts of Germany. But I think the fact that you are here, that you dedicated your time to this is really encouraging. And is, I think, really a sign of your, concern and hopefully also your level of commitment to be able to keep pushing this fight forward over these next months and beyond. So thank you everyone for joining us. And we hope to see you at future campaign events. Please fill in the registration form, join the WhatsApp group. If you're coming to the festival on July 12th, please let us know that as well in the WhatsApp. We'll send a message in the WhatsApp group, but hopefully we can plan a moment to all meet each other in person and connect in person.